in, oops, so the plan for the first Sunday in February is to go to the oral transmission of Manjushri, the fifth Dalai Lama's Lamrim, with a commentary by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Along with this, so I just confirmed with Geshe last night, that's why it's not up yet. Geshe took a moment to decide. He is going to have as the side text, Recognizing the Mother, a Profound Song of the View. And this text is a little bit also poignant because this is the last teaching that Lama Zopa Rinpoche requested from His Holiness the Dalai Lama before his passing. So there's a very poignant video on YouTube. We sort of need things that soften our hearts these days. It's easy to get cynical. So one of the things that softened my heart is watching the YouTube video of Rinpoche requesting those teachings of the Song of the Profound View. Another one is the walking monks. Those have been sort of my happy go-to places. So that's the plan for next month. This month is Highest Yoga Tantra Catch-Up Month. The regular monthly commentaries resume with Chakra Samvara next month, second Saturday. We have a lot of ongoing programs, including pujas, the morning meditations, Dave's literature circle. So all of those things are available in our newsletter. In terms of Losar, which falls on the 18th of the month, we'll have a morning session at 8 a.m. for about 45 minutes. We try to keep them short because it is a work day this year, unfortunately. It's a weekday. So Geshe will do the bodhisattva vows, which we're actually talking about right now. So that's kind of nice, along with the Lion of the Shakyas oral transmission, which is a praise to the Buddha composed by the great Lama Tsongkhapa. Just one last thing before I invite Geshe down. Usually January or February, Geshe and I take maybe like 10 to 14 days to do a little bit of extra practice. So that started a couple of days ago. So if you email me, just expect it will take a little bit longer. I've answered everybody's whose email were in the queue, but all the other emails, I'll look at those again and speak with Geshe about those on the 19th or the 20th, just to give him a little bit of that extra space. But don't worry, I haven't forgotten you. And if there's anything urgent, I will see it because, at the same time, we like to take that time. We do have a center that we want to keep going and all of you to support. So if there's something urgent, email me. But if it's not urgent, just know that it'll take maybe 10 days or so for me to get back to you. So I will stop nattering now. We'll invite Geshe down. Grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee, and we'll get started soon. So, welcome, Dharma friends. Thanks so much for choosing to spend your Sunday morning with us. Let me just do a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
And Geshe
Yep.
And can you hear Geshe? All right, then let us get the show on the road. So first of all, greetings to all Dharma friends, and Geshe hopes that everything, and in particular your Dharma activities, are improving and improving, going better and better. So why do all of us gather together on an occasion such as this? We can think of three important reasons to gather. So these three are connected to what do we do now that we have this human form, which we speak about as the ideal spiritual basis, this human brain and this human mind with its intelligence. These are the 3 points. The first is that we bring forth the kind of mind which will allow the activity to become a purification of all of the negativities accumulated from beginningless lifetimes in samsara up until the present. So, the reason for this is that if we don't do this, we understand that those negativities, if not purified, these become obstacles, and it becomes difficult for us even to improve ourselves, much less help the others that we wish to help. The second of these 3 points is to engage in the 2 accumulations of merit and wisdom, to strive in accumulating those and placing their positive potentialities within the mind. So whether a result becomes a desired for result or a negative result, this similarly depends upon the accumulations, whether the accumulations and the potentials that we are engaging in are wholesome or unwholesome. And so we want to use this human brain to sort of activate that potential, to be able to accumulate the most powerful potentialities, the most powerful imprints that we can. And all of this is possible because we understand that fundamentally our mind has these qualities of being clear and knowing. Sumpati droma song. Ale, lo sai, teni sumpati. Sum lag na ya pure tu. So those 2 of the 3 points, this is going to be enough for us to establish the conditions for that temporary happiness. However, we understand that that temporary happiness is not reliable, is not enough. We want to reach a state of happiness that is completely untouched by suffering. And that brings us to the third point, which is actually out of the three, really the essential point, to apply the practice to reduce the faults in our mind and to increase the positive mental qualities. So these are the 3 points that are important for us to recollect. They are important for us to recollect if we are primarily looking out for our own welfare. They are even more important to recollect if we wish to be able to contribute to the welfare of others. And just always keep in mind in the background that whatever we set our mind to, whatever we wish to accomplish, based upon the situation that we have now, we will definitely be able to actualize that. So, whatever kind of samsaric situations that we are facing, the really important thing to remember is to have the confidence, to have the courage that within us are the potentials, are the power to be able to cope with whatever comes. And it's really important to understand that even temporarily within samsara, as these problems inevitably unfold, right, that at the moment we have this human form, we have all of these opportunities to take the essence of this life. Even when things are difficult, we have reasons to be happy. And also connected with this, a very sort of well-known practice these days is the 4 close placements of mindfulness, right? The 4 applications of mindfulness. It's important to understand that within the 4, mindfulness of the mind and mindfulness of phenomena are particularly important. And we want to sort of utilize those contemplations in a way that help us identify and eliminate the faults within our mind and help us identify and bring forth the positive mental qualities. So as we apply these close application of mindfulness of the mind and close application of mindfulness, sometimes it's given as dharmas, but I like to say phenomena because dharma can be used differently. So close placement of meditation on the mind and phenomena, what we want to be able to understand is that the afflictions, the way that they are operating, they are not something stable, right? They are not something that is part of the mind, whereas positive mental qualities like love, compassion, and so forth, it is possible to bring those forth to perfection, to stability within the mind. So, initially, it's easy to feel overwhelmed because it seems like the afflictions are really running things, like they are sort of the lord or the lady of the house of our mind. However, right, ultimately we should understand that those afflictions are not a natural part of the mind. They are adventitious. They are like temporary guests. So, on the ultimate level, actually, the Lord or Lady of the mind are not those afflictions, but are these mental qualities that are positive and can abide powerfully. Love, compassion, wisdom realizing impermanence, wisdom realizing emptiness, and so forth. But you know, So at the moment, so at the moment, we are not the ruler of our minds, the Lord or Lady of our mind, because the afflictions are blocking us. So what we need to do is we need to fix the staffing problem, right? Get rid of the afflictions and build those mental qualities. So the process through our analysis and cultivation, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other realized beings have said, is a little bit like taking the afflictions to court, right? We want to show through a case of reasoning why they do not belong within our mind. What are the scriptural citations that we can use to make our case? What are the valid logical reasons that we can use to make our case and get those afflictions to leave the mind? And so then also, if we do this work from our side and request their blessings, it is sure that those enlightened beings, the Buddha, Tara, the various yidams, lamas, and so forth, they will provide their blessings to help us succeed in this. So that was sort of the preliminary comments that Geshe wanted to make, and so I just want to check our audio settings. Okay, it looks good. So we will now begin our short contemplation. Please. So I can't find the mallet. Anyway, I have a solution to that. So place the body and mind in a state of peace. So imagine that it's a little bit like throwing a pebble in the water. At first, our thoughts will seem to be present, like those rings that they make on the surface, but slowly those rings will dissolve into the water. In this way, dissolve any unpleasant thoughts, feelings, mental projections, or distractions. So from this space where the body and mind are peaceful, let us apply the application of mindfulness to the mind, to the mind's relative nature. In order to do this effectively, any thoughts or worries about the past, anxiety of the future, any distraction, I'm just going to gently set it aside. Any plans about the future that come to mind, any hopes for the future, thoughts of the future, gently set those aside.
Chukini ganga meba dundrawa ta se tuma chani la ta nika ga senji mo koro o ta te sashi riba tuma tela ta lele se chani devi somaji.
So when we set down our distracting thoughts, it is like placing a glass of water with particles in it on the ground. Those particles slowly float to the bottom. So as the distractions are slowly settled away, focus on the relative nature of the fundamental mind. It is clear and knowing.
Se tuma melo nuji, lo nuji, nima nuji ta pake uge to denpa o ta tuma tuma tali yabuji yo somaji.
Think the mind, like a mirror, can reflect all phenomena. It also has a quality of light, of luminosity, that can dispel any darkness.
Noka nuji i to kato la supa tindriki nesi mena kanga shito pa, kanga rito pa, kanga tonto pika ta mo nipa to denpa tindriki.
The mind's nature doesn't have a particular shape, doesn't have a particular color, and so forth. But it has a quality of knowingness that can see, that can cognize, that can come to understand any object.
Suji ka ri sena yung koro yi, tabi ri sena yung koro yi, jonji simbi ri ta koro yi somaji.
And
Ngote
its most profound essence is that we call the Tathagata Garbha, or Buddha nature, the potential for liberation, the potential to become a bodhisattva.
nyemo rapa kandri chi na, nyemo ka tsawa mariba hina. O ta logo wachi ma to kanga mewa logo koro ka ta ngoji yo somaji.
When we understand this aspect of the mind's nature, we understand that the afflictions in their coarser level, and even the most subtle types of ignorance, these are not the mind's nature. They're adventitious.
Rola te yoba noji, moga yonzu, donan ro yonzu la tindri ri tsa chi mo ti chade. Se tela tawa yana kanga tsa chi mo ta yabo yin somaji.
And just as this is my mind's nature, this potential for Buddhahood, this potential for liberation, so too do all sentient beings possess this Buddha nature. And in this way, we can contemplate that they are definitely worthy definitely should be cherished and are connected with us.
묘조 타비 디시실라 다 체야대로 소소 링레가 소마 노지 용하지다 소아 찌찌다 신줄로지
To actualize my mind's fundamental nature, to be able to lead all of these sentient beings to the bliss of liberation, is my responsibility. I will request the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to do that. So make those requests to the holy beings single-pointedly. Yeah, Geshe said don't make it too long, so we'll go at a clip. We'll go at a clip today. Dönba chomdende deshin sheba drachomba yang daba zobe sangye reba dang shazu denba dewa sheba jiden jemba jebu duwe kalo jorwa lana meba ladami namgi dönba sangye chomdende be jawa shagya tuba la chazelo jede gyabzu ji ho dönba chomdende deshin sheba Drachomba yang daba zobe sanje reba dang shazu denba dewa sheba jiden jemba chebu dewe kalo jorwa lana meba ladam minamgi denba sangye chomdende be jawa shagya tuba la chazelo jede kyabzu ji o denba chomdende deshin sheba drachomba yang daba zobe sangye reba dang shabzu denba dewa sheba jiden chemba chebu duwe kalo jorwa lana meba ladam minamgi denba sangye chomdende be jawa shagya tuba la chazelo chede gyabzu chi o. Short mandala. So ji begi je me do jan ji ja lin ji ni de gyamba di sangye jin de me de bo gi joku nanda jin la che ba sho idam guru ratna mandala kam niryata yami. So the prayers to Guru Rinpoche. Sorry. Ungogyen yogino shansam pemagesa dombora yatsen cheginga jenye pemajone jesuja goru kanjo mambe ko gegi jesu ta jogi jinji lo shi jesu sol guru pema Tuzum sangye guru rinpo shengonjo gunda dewa jembe ja baje kunze du jabo Zesolwa demso jinji labduzol jinang sangwe baje jiwa dang sambalungi joba Om Benza Guru Pema Peza Guru Pema Siddhi Refuge and bodhicitta. Chedon Sogi Chenam La Jangzhe Badu Dani Gyalsu Chi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Senam Gi Jola Penjir Sangye Jopar Sho Chedon Sogi Chenam La Jangzhe Badu Dani Gyalsu Chi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Senam Gi Jola Penjir Sangye Jopar Sho Chedon Sogi Chenam La Jangzhe Badu Dani Gyalsu Chi Dagi Chenyen Jipe Senam Gi Jora Benje Sangye Jopa Sho.
Oh yeah, that no jing anzo yo ichi ju ga da samba dong de wa wa lin no chi de de ga to ne. Ani da
So then when we speak about the 6 preparatory practices before the meditation session, we know that one of these is to place one's body in the 7-point posture to prepare for meditation. So then the Buddhas, through their own cultivation and discernment, they thought, what is the best way for most people to hold the body to engage in meditation? And it was the 7-point posture, which is based upon the posture of Buddha Vajrayāna. So it is said that actually sitting in this posture is very profound because it is taking our ordinary form skandha or form aggregate, and by sitting in this way creates the potentiality for that form aggregate to transform into the aspect of Vajrayāna, one of the 5 Buddha families. Yeah. So that doesn't happen with our present ordinary form body, right? It happens with another body that we produce at enlightenment. However, if we are able to comfortably sit in this posture of Vajrayāna, this is very beneficial because it is connected to building the imprints to achieve that result. So there's a story actually related to this 7-point posture of Vajrayāna, and it comes from the students of a great Tirthika teacher, so a holder of one of the other Indian spiritual traditions, a non-Buddhist tradition. And the students of this teacher, they were spending many hours in meditation, but they were never able to actually reach higher states of concentration or samadhi. So Piudi Getrugi Trupares Piumanedore. So these Tirthika and his students had a relationship with a particular monkey, and that monkey looked to find where the Buddha was sitting with his students and how they sat in meditation. The monkey was able to explain that they were sitting in this 7-point posture. He explained this to the Tirthikas, and they were much more quickly able to reach samadhi. So when we also, Geshe is saying, important when we speak about these Tirthikas to understand that this is, a very broad label, and it doesn't really it doesn't give you an idea of the sort of variety or diversity within those views, because amongst the Tirthika practitioners, there were a great many who had high levels of samadhi and also had high levels of clairvoyance. So the clairvoyance of many of these Tirthaka teachers was very profound, and also they were very honest spiritual practitioners. Recollecting this honesty brings another history to mind. Geshe thinking of the Tirthaka teacher who was developing clairvoyance about the future. He saw that shortly a teacher who would be called the awakened one, the Buddha, would appear, and he felt very sad because he realized that by the time the Buddha appeared, his lifespan would be complete. But he told his students to seek out that teacher. So just placing your body in sort of an upright meditation posture, best you can manage. We'll do a short preliminary meditation and motivation today based upon the mindfulness awareness of the breath, the 9-point breathing. So first, take your body into that upright position, and then you can see that you are taking it is good. You're taking the left hand and blocking the left nostril and breathing in the right as the first step. And then block the opposite nostril and breathe out. And do this 3 times. Now take the other hand, the opposite hand, and block the right nostril. Breathe in through the left. Exhale out the right. Do this 3 times. And then finally, inhale and exhale through both nostrils, deeply and relaxed, 3 times. Think any discomfort within the body, any distractions, unpleasant thoughts, feelings troubling the mind, that as we breathe out all those negativities and distractions, which then dissolve like a rainbow into space. The mind is clear and knowing. Its fundamental nature is unobscured, uncovered by the dust of confusion. The problems of samsara in the world, whether big or small, so many of them can be connected with the biased attitude of holding some close and others distant.
로와 생제 간지지나요. 세미니리 초동도 전화 주말. 다는 야가라. 가와라. 간지 여부 차그래. 소만.
Think how wonderful if myself and all sentient beings could be parted from this biased attitude, holding some close and others distant. How wonderful if we could all abide in equanimity.
무제요 조다 니리 초동도 자. 시야তে 따로 소소가 내가 조지 디제다. 아니 소지가 공부. 난 더봐서 이 소매 동시에 주세요.
Think in order to separate self, others, all sentient beings from this attitude of holding some close and others distant, I must achieve Buddhahood so that I can do that most effectively. Bring forth bodhicitta.
쇼준지 세던데 돈이 문지비 샤지진 봐. 인연에 여보 셰지 슈스 여보 슈스 소만.
지팔레 샤피진 바로.
야야.
Think in this way, conjoined with this mind of bodhicitta, this motivation of bodhicitta, I've helped to provide the generosity of protection from fear for sentient beings.
어다 디티시티지 어다 돈요 체면서 하냐래잖아. 준비녀래 노니다 야쇼지 자 체주지 문지비 샤지진 봐.
So just highlighting that this is a common understanding. When we speak about the four immeasurables or the four boundless thoughts, people can tell me if they prefer I say immeasurable or boundless. I don't mind, let me know. So equanimity, when this is meditated upon and practiced, this is said to be a generosity of giving freedom from fear.
어다 나로서 어느 거액은 지바 간디지나요. 어다 니리 쳐도 그지자야 다 보게 니네 옆었다는 간소시 와고.
And if you look sort of logically from a distance, you can see that so many of the fears and anxieties that we have within samsara are connected to holding some close and others distant.
어다 근데 지나다 간소 녀래 가르소기 히나요 소소라빠다 뭐시 본디와.
So, whether a practice becomes rich for you or not depends upon thinking about it in the fullest way. So that responsibility is in your hands.
어다 근데 다 간소 다 니네 손지야 로사 손지가 사래. 어다 간소 근다 지기도 지바레스. 근다
로서.
어다 요나 통과 지기도 지바레. 통과 여보 진대바 요하러 왔어. 이나 용고 쭈리 코르모니 레레자 마누아지 로크야레스.
So our destination is this thing called complete and perfect Buddhahood. And it might be a little bit difficult to think about how we reach that or how we go about it. But we can think of the example of a tanka painter. You might see a beautiful tanka like the one here depicting the Buddha. But this starts out with lines from a pencil on the fabric and then slowly gets filled in. The danger, though, of course, which every good tanka painter knows, is that if you get the initial lines wrong, the whole painting is going to look kind of strange. So we can look at sort of the first lines that we draw as the practice of the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. Refuge, which allows us to abandon incorrect paths in favor of a correct path, and bodhicitta, which allows us to abandon a limited path in favor of a vast path. So we will turn to words of my perfect teacher.
어다 시라가 눈에 다 백가 돈이 또비 다 시라가 눈에 다 백가르세가 다 야쇼 나버스나 다 야쇼 로다 타마도 말와스 돈이 또비 시라라요 로바시야기 조 하카사라와 못아바 또비 시라 조시레 되야레스.
And so as we go back to this chapter, return to this chapter on impermanence, just a reminder that the supreme wisdom is the wisdom realizing emptiness. But the preliminary to bring that forth effectively is the wisdom realizing impermanence. So this is very important.
어다시고 덤바 스도 세이나요 다 대야 롤 특히이나레 로 야진 특히이나레 강가 다 키로 바지 조지레 되야레스.
And so all of the holy beings in the past who were able to complete the full path, right, who were able to embark on that journey successfully, this was driven in part by their wisdom understanding impermanence.
다 됐어. 야, 다 나로 토소.
Ngalo tongsuas and the
나로 틀려 예라 땜비 잼보노 좀.
Oh, right. Okay, so we just have to find. It speaks about last year. Hold on. Nanso di jungi netso denso duru droya dan karisegiana.
세코는 야기 봐도 담만드나 만다 요아르세기 두아스. 소소다 야바 작으면 되겠어.
No, di drotsas kailaga.
소소 디토아르세기 두아스 나 테마하지 마레스.
Ah, di masres.
Mare.
Mare. Nga dires kadampa gi netso jiden gi jelares utsumon buja so akasan karisegiana.
세시 어떤 로차 송아스. 그게 타마타마면.
Ale. Right. Sorry. Oh, yes. Okay. So, sorry. We are on page 50, about halfway down. Hakoson. Listen.
오야, 나로 틀려 예라 땜비 잼보노죠. 달로 제코도 냐기 바트마 통이 따바 메비 나 통기 제시 데이 디또도 그와도 냠바메 반로와 하동 집이 제기서 잡아 주베 순지제 공부시 더기 뇨도 솜
Di la sumshso sumdroediro.
말아 쳤어.
Sorry, I'm very confused about where we are. Oh, okay. Sorry, just give me a moment. Sorry. Fell to the earth and died in battle. Sangegi gopang tobna dene durudroya yomares roa di mi dang lagi chupala tene yarudrogi duas. Didro roa? Yeah. Okay, so the state of perfect Buddhahood, on the other hand, can never diminish or be spoiled, and is worthy of the offerings of gods and men. That is what you should be determined to attain. So this is the nature of samsara, that whatever we achieve, there is not a single thing that is stable, right? Things go up and things come down. This nature of fluctuation is its character. So that is also what is meant by the line, oh, now I see it, sorry. So that is also what is meant by the line, those who have been imposing law on others 1 year find themselves spending the next languishing in prison, right? So we all know of high officials, politicians, other people who are powerful, and then end up in prison. So then what is the stable thing that we should aim for, where we won't have to experience these problems and these types of impermanence? Only complete and perfect enlightenment, full Buddhahood, will allow us to do that. So that is an unchanging, stable happiness, that Buddhahood is a state where no faults can trouble us. Yeah, Mare sigrup sheka dapore duatire nyotra kemeji. Inji kedam pig rimbat samsam tets true. So now Geshe said the next story that comes in the text is a little bit heavy, so buckle up.
대저도 다녀 못하대 예 파파까다야나 세뇨라 페피에서 치다지게 버 치다지게 버시 보나즈 냐샤시 심셔 따라사 츠모시 리파차와라 도데바 파빙에시지 제비 냐데셰와 데리제 파동 츠모데 마이셰와 이시 생애 롱오세비 다데 소레 촤네 버시와 염바 제비 파샤사시 말라데 세비다오 뽕 세비다오 뽕나즈 추미 초이 리파 코이치라 게모토 시슴바이.
Friendship and enmity too are far from everlasting. One day the Arhat Katyayana was out on alms round. He came across a man with a child on his lap. The man was eating a fish with great relish and throwing stones at a dog that was trying to get the bones. I don't say the B word. What the master saw with his clairvoyance, however, was this. The fish had been the man's own father in that very lifetime, and the dog had been his mother. An enemy he had killed in a past existence had been reborn as his son, and the karmic repayment for the life the man had taken. Katyayana cried out. He eats his father's flesh. He beats his mother. He dandles on his lap the enemy that he killed. The wife is gnawing at her husband's bones. I laugh to see what happens in samsara's show.
어다 송제도 현재 선바서 다 간주 코아 노진이 간주 승기와르 세기와르와스 말레이타사 코와뇨 코이타사 말라뇨
Gonda younger sundan ke sab
jimala mat ngazu koal tawaina koa kanga nyombarendus.
Yeah.
Koa pa jimala pa nyombarendus.
Yeah, so then this is why we can think of the words of Milarepa here and see how much sense they make. He says, when worldly beings gaze upon me, they see a crazy person. But when I look at the worldly ones within samsara, they seem to be the crazy ones to me. So this Arhat Katyayana was a very important direct disciple of the Buddha, and he was somebody who the Buddha would send to many different places, acting as his representative, actually. So he so Geshe is remembering that Katyayana, he was the one who first kicked out Ananda from the Sangha. He thinks he's the Arhat who first kicked out Ananda from the Sangha. So a sad scene that is being painted here, right? A starving person eating a fish and a hungry dog trying to get some scraps and being beaten away.
어떤 딜업자 치워서 뻑다부자 대한 소송마 세키 마지레디 아레스. 소송마 세키.
Yeah.
소송마 세키 마지.
Loso. Ngoma segen sena?
파세야 되면 소송 파.
Ale, loso.
대다 파시 내가 시키고 봐. 자오지레 대당한다. So we can see that what happens is one is eating the father's flesh, eating the one who had been his father in a previous lifetime. So in terms of the karmic relationships in this paragraph, the enemy is reborn as the son of this particular person. And the father is reborn as the fish which the person is eating. And the dog was the mother in a previous lifetime. So this paints the picture of those who are enemies and those who are close to us. These are continually changing positions within samsara, and we might not know who was our friend or our enemy from the previous life. So our sort of imputation of the stability of these relationships within samsara, when you consider what can happen over lifetimes, this is mistaken. 어다 다도 네 어다 던지지네 파파 강가 파자야 지주야 말이 강가 천디가 네 누지 다토나 다 소소를 계속 제가
So what do we do if we understand this is the situation? We try to stop putting people into slots of enemy and friend, and instead we try to generally cultivate a feeling of closeness with all the beings we encounter. This is what will bring benefit.
근데 뭐 가시 카드고 던지가 다 지지는 손으로 두야다서 리라블라기야 말이스 아니 던지이나 던지이나 강가니이나 강가 다요레도 와스 던지 다우 손으로 지바레도 던지 베냐 할래야면 돼 와스.
So a clever person might say, if all of these relationships are always changing, then why don't we just see that actually the people who seem to be our friends were actually our enemies? And why don't we just see all of the people we encounter as our enemies? Doesn't the logic work both ways?
다 될래 가르래서나 나로서 용주 자 전부 용주를 쇼바고 니지 거게 돼 나로서 캔데라 주면 돼 비셔 계속 그건디 와스
캡상 로소
중국은 와스.
So why is that? Why do we focus on trying to see them as close to us like friends rather than understanding that they could also be enemies? Because not only do we want to cultivate impermanence, but we also want our way of thinking to bring us some profit of merit. And this can only happen if we focus on the closeness aspect.
강가 다소노 또니 포게소노 또야 제세테 제세 타디도 요 말했더니 제세테에서 라에도 요 할때는 디그 소설 내봐지마도 배도 배마 요.
We want to acknowledge the other side, right? That friends can become enemies. But if we cultivate this in meditation, for example, and want to see all beings as enemies, what's going to be the end result of that? That will bring us into conflict. It will bring us into the accumulation of negative karma, which is the opposite of what we want. So that's why we focus on the possibility that they were all friends.
강가를 쇼바고 강가를 다 제와시 니지고나 단단에 레 돈비까니 소설 계속지마도 중요한 말이야.
If we cultivate this awareness and are able to bring forth a merciful attitude and eventually love and compassion to all those beings, that will only bring us profit and benefit. It will not cause a loss or difficulties for us.
어딘지 봤지? 그래서
Los again.
거기치라 게모토 시순바이 첸더용 모사. 저게 첸더용 담 샤워 잡아 놓죠. 시스 텀비 조시 녀도 녀와디 자토 예레 라바요 더만두.
So, powerful passages here. Even within one lifetime, it often happens that sworn enemies are later reconciled and make friends. They may even become part of each other's families and end up closer than anyone else. On the other hand, people intimately linked by blood or marriage often argue and do each other as much harm as they had for the sake of some trivial possession or paltry inheritance.
그래서 어다 뭐저 돈벌까라 다 레비트니 비드냐 강에테 대야 비슷한데 이나요. 우지세 뭐 가실라 때는다 뭐세 매라 할레비 두보 아니 어다들이 여보자로 뭐문도 왔어.
So it's hard to believe, but it does happen that someone for whom we experience an extremely strong dislike, who we have a terrible grudge against, due to particular circumstances manifesting, can in that same lifetime become a very dear and cherished friend. And so connected with this passage is a story that Geshe would like to share. And so if there's time, if there's time, he will share that. Okay. So we're going to leave it. Geshe is going easy on the heavy verses. We're going to leave it in that paragraph, the second paragraph on page 51. So now we are turning to the sections on bodhicitta. Geshe was giving me a hard time for not finding the passage, because the English and the Tibetan, the order is sometimes not, the meaning's there, but the order sometimes is not exact, right? So now he's having problems finding a passage, so he's saying that's his karma from scolding me. Jampe pao sogi ngaja de tabu. Sumja chuni Tama.
알아 어디다 됐어.
So we are on page 312 towards the end of the page.
어떤 아로스 간갈 캣 그거 알아. 중국어 매이자 단디님에서 다 용조. 자 침보증이 다 내가겠네스레스.
So we were talking a little bit about today about trying to minimize our karmic losses and trying to maximize our profits. So maximizing our profits is very much kind of the idea of this section.
이번 예리 차도세리 첸디게 nye 됐더니 nye 다요 말에서 대세게요 말에서 용조까지 터더 첸디게 nye 노지 싶게 따도나 계속 침보라요 알아스.
But to clarify, we're not asking for a cynical vision from understanding that things are impermanent and holding some close and others far away doesn't make sense. We're not saying that you shouldn't have any feeling of closeness in your life, right? What we are saying is that you want that closeness to be extended beyond that circle to as many beings as possible.
다 첸디게 녜로 보게 다니야 다니에 따야도 다 제어제한테 그 머리바도 말이 여보도 좋았어. 다 이내 될라 보게 가르쳐 녜모도 내 쇼모모야 대지 갈래 정하서 그 알아서.
Why is this the case? Because our immediate close family members, our immediately close friends for whom we experience that feeling of them being near to us, this is also mixed with certain afflictions such as attachment. So if we can build on those feelings but extend the circle to more and more sentient beings, we'll be able to build towards a love without attachment.
저도 고만 리반 우지를 다 치이차 대지 갈래 정하더만도 고만 이네 버치버데래요.
So we can look at sort of the love and affection that we possess now as a positive thing, but it's like milk mixed with water, right? And so what we want to do is gradually boil the water out so that we're only left with the milk. The way to do that is to extend that feeling of closeness beyond our immediate circle to more and more beings.
야 다 개와 간디 지사바 이나요 다 신주 침보고 다 보게 요조 된 눈을 짓다 알아서 가서.
Again.
세조좀 뭐지 마제바노시 시와냐 마메마. 오늘 건데 배워쇼. 다 뭐와데 신주 침보 요조 보게 And so Geshe said that, this sort of very powerful mind that we have from taking the bodhisattva vows, it is then sealed with this verse of dedication. So I gave you the Tibetan, which is page 312. I'm like, you guys are working in English. So we're on page 221, and we are now on the first paragraph of 221. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. And then we have the other way of sealing the merits, which Geshe said is the most powerful dedication of merits. Geshe calls it the Jampel Pao. So Jampel is Manjushri. So it's the one that is here on page 21, emanating the hero Manjushri, Samantabhadra, and all those with knowledge. I too make perfect dedication of all actions that are positive. ngama lasa chol jigan robi kala ane amati ngel robi yar digo de tone ta pawa chin pawa tone robi yar mo yar was tone pawa tone machi ga king ngwa zo sing yar mares tone tamale vikar ko amati pe ko amati pe ngwa ja chembo zone pro do melo jane do was tone pawa te chogati yo.
So this is emulating the dedications of those great bodhisattvas, and it reminds Geshe of a story of a man who went to Lhasa for pilgrimage. Now this man was not so educated or literate, but he wanted to dedicate the merits of the pilgrimage at the great temple, and so he was stuck as to what to do. So what he did is he was following behind an old woman who he could see reciting prayers very beautifully. As he listened to the words, he was inspired, and so he made the dedication. Whatever the lady in front of me is dedicating, I dedicate my merits just like that. So that's exactly what we're doing, right? And the idea here is that the dedications that we come up with, there's no way that they could be more powerful powerful than the dedications of these great bodhisattvas Manjushri and Samantabhadra. So we're basically saying whatever they dedicated for, I'm going to dedicate for the same thing.
어다 간조 너 메이자다 버게 레와 피타 보지와 이사 개와 가제 그노야보 ngo야보 셰토나 드니 바버게 개와 조심해 반 리부 조야메 바치 차로야 여보잖아.
Because we're human beings, right, with our mind, with our intelligence, if we locate those very best types of motivations, if we locate those very supreme form of dedications, there is no reason that we cannot accumulate great merit and increase it through dedication.
어다 저기도와 시부 동바스 전제 선바스 이네 강에 용케레 단다 버게 끼고자 되는 내와시게 디파사게 주하러 와스 대질은 이지체가 용요하래.
And so we try to understand a little bit about how those holy beings think. So another thing that you may have heard before, but which is worthwhile to contemplate, is that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, if they're looking at sentient beings, they see the ones who are relatively comfortable but accumulating the causes of future suffering with greater compassion than the compassion they have for the ones who are experiencing the results of their negativity.
어단적인도와스 어다레 모터스 된다 데레스 어겨ngo 마시노 다 컨트롤 퍼 디고 메바존 로요아레 tani 배도 메바 좌로요아레.
And the important thing though also to seal with dedication is we know if we get angry, this can degenerate the merits that we have accumulated. Dedication prevents that from happening.
어다 개왕고 차소나 다테 타 할레비 다 리라오지 마르와스 거야.
Yeah.
어다고 치추주지 자서 전문을 요바노지 컨트롤 코도 전부지 이나였더니 거
So we know the analogy for dedicating the merits, right? It's like taking a small amount, a few drops of water, and pouring it into a great ocean. We know that as long as that ocean remains, some of the essence of that merit remains. So even if the sun of anger is blazing very strongly, it will not be able to completely disintegrate all the merits. So Geshe-la's quoting a sutra. I said, which sutra? He's like, I can't remember. But it's a very famous sutra. So if anyone knows the name, feel free to put it in the chat. So in the Sutra of the Buddha, it says that that those merits dedicated to supreme and perfect enlightenment abide just as drops put into the ocean remain for as long as that ocean abides. So dedicate your merits to supreme enlightenment. And so we know this, right? If we don't protect those merits from the fire of anger, it's just like having a few drops in a pan. If you heat it for just a very short moment, that liquid will evaporate. But if you put those drops of the pan into a lake or river, there's no way that somebody's going to boil that entire lake or river so that it evaporates. So that some of that positive potential will always remain. So continuing down to 21, this arousing of bodhicitta is the quintessence of the 84,000 methods taught by the conqueror. It is the instruction to have which is enough by itself, but to lack which renders anything else futile. It is a panacea, the medicine for 100 ills. All other dharma paths such as the... Okay, yeah, sorry. It is a panacea, the medicine for 100 ills. Stopping there. So these passages are aimed at helping us to appreciate the preciousness of bodhicitta. So the first way that this is done is we explain that bodhicitta is the sort of distilled essence of the nectar of the 84,000 Dharma teachings.
다 니티 태바 루자 태바 다 단다 테메사 라기 와텔라로 말라나 된다. 대지 숨바테 소소 타발은 거는 저거서 손지 숨바테 소만다고지. 그렇다. 타지레마도 니네 처사디 존지스리가.
And when we say the essence of the 84,000 teachings, it's important to understand the implications of this. So we're not, Geshe, he's saying it's not really politically correct to say Hinayana these days, so we can think of the smaller vehicle, the Shravakayana teachings, the teachings of the hearers and solitary realizers that propose personal liberation as the goal. This is not the distilled essence of the teachings. It is merely a bridge to be able to bring being slowly over to the bodhisattva vehicle.
다 대문보르다스 베난도 데비타와 세점비 셔라마이 타와 세점비 타 아마루지비 타와 강가요 타와 타투를 태하고 소만다보드레디오레스.
We can understand this when it comes to the teachings on the view as well. When we speak about the Vaibhasikas, the great exposition school, the Sautantrikas, the Sutra school, the Chittamantrins mind only, and even within the middle way school, the Madhyamika Sautantrikas, right? We understand that all of these are not the final view, but they are like ladders to bring you up to the level of the Madhyamika Prasangika, the middle way consequence.
대지 따와테 세점비 따와리 따와 타투 이자 소지 수요하레스.
So, the tricky part is, within the sutras of the Buddha, when each particular view was taught, it was taught as if it were the final view. So if you were to ask the initial question, did the Buddha say that this was the correct view? So for example, for the Chittamantran school, you would say, yes, the Buddha did say that.
다 이나요 코로스를 던지지마도 니빠 알레니까지 매아이다. 대리와 타지존에 돈 코로스 수요바지레스.
But we have to understand that these provisional teachings were a skillful means. The Buddha taught according to the time and circumstance. Seeing that those sentient beings were not ripe for that final teaching, he proposed the provisional teaching to set them on the path. So, if you want to know more about this, you can turn to the teachings of Nagarjuna and Asanga on Changdun and Ngendun, interpretable meaning and definitive meaning. Nejamichi Oh, right. Yeah. So there is a powerful medicine, which is, I guess you could translate it as the luminous white medicine. It's called something like that. And it's sort of one tablet which clears away all of the 100 diseases. Bodhicitta is like that.
다 시라겠잖아요. 다 아까서와 다와 타투 투니투비 다와 타투 투비 시라데 내자 미지도 다 니네들에디오레스.
And so Geshe said that we can look at this as the provisional panacea that cures 100 ills, whereas the wisdom realizing emptiness is the ultimate panacea that cures 100 ills.
Devajong Hagomba, Nadibala so, Chinuasa Lemba, Toje Jong, Jonju say, Yenovan, the Gila Shivi, Tazo, Nuasa Lemba, Inji, Jonju Sela, Matemba, Ruru Sosilonji, Zubi Suji Kombotoba, Mani.
All other dharma paths, such as the accumulations, the purification of defilements, meditation on deities, and recitation of mantras, are simply methods to make this wish-granting gem, bodhicitta, take birth in the mind. Without bodhicitta, none of them can lead you to the level of perfect Buddhahood on their own.
공저 통제 주베 손지지 공보도 저런 로와 연비 디도 넘바 도제도 루젤라 손주지세 냐마레 시비타라 고타마니라.
But once bodhicitta has been aroused in you, whatever dharma practices you do will lead to the attainment of perfect Buddhahood. Learn always to use whatever means you can to make even the slightest spark of bodhicitta arise in you. But to keep in mind, right, that this spark of bodhicitta, in the beginning, it's something that we can only bring forth for a moment. There's nobody who right from the beginning is going to bring it forth strongly.
다 야진 니네 그 야진 로 자샤 잔대와 요케시나 가제 터던 연말에 걸어보게 가제 터더 쳐 맞아 봐. 아까서와 뚱바 디세리고 맞아네.
장주선배 공자야로.
다 가리나 돈이나 가리나.
Right. So if you're somebody who wishes to bring forth this bodhicitta, or indeed wisdom, understanding, emptiness, in a stable way, how do you go about it? It begins with 100% determination to cultivate it at least for a little bit every day without setting it aside. Then slowly, one comes to experience. It's not going to help you to just get really nervous and be like, push, and think that it's going to happen. He said he didn't say push that many times. Sorry. This may be 2 or 3. How many did I do? 7? He said Kedrip's an oracle for some sort of weird goddess or something. Okay. So push. Oh, sorry. So then, push, and then nothing happens, right? If we proceed like that, and we'll get frustrated and leave it aside. What we need is a calm consistency. The continuity is the key factor here, right? We know that if we put a couple of drops in a pan, that slowly, day by day, we can fill the pan with water. Remember Asanga's story when he got discouraged in his retreat and he thought there's no point, but then he looked in his cave to where tiny drops of water had begun to form a hole in the stone below. And he thought, if even water is that powerful, how much more powerful can I be with consistent effort?
Yeah.
So in the text, it explains that our joyous effort should be like a gently flowing river. We want a gentle continuity. Ale. Right. So I don't want to be a 3-day Buddha is another sort of common Tibetan idiom. And I'm asking, like, who wouldn't want to become a Buddha in 3 days? But Geshe is explaining that the idea, right, is that we don't want to have like a sudden push for our practice and then get discouraged and lay off. This is not the way. So this actually, don't be a 3-day Buddha is a common sort of teasing of people that push really hard and then back off. So Geshe was saying at Gyume Monastery, some of the Geshes, they study like really hard, trying to learn all the mandalas and diagrams and things like this. But his friend Geshe Tempa was a lot more relaxed. So he said, you guys are way too uptight. Don't be a 3-day Buddha. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a sarcastic meaning maybe sometimes. Loso. Tishana Jogin Shagin done that. Yeah. So we'll leave it here. Learn always to use whatever means you can to make even the slightest spark of bodhicitta arise in you. So we are stopping halfway down page 221, and we will go to the explanation of the 21 taras. Yeah, so Geshe said we're going to try to do three of the 21 taras and verses today. This is because Kedrip apparently complained and said it would be nice if we could finish all 21 before this increment of words of my perfect teacher is finished. I thought you guys might like to finish it.
오야 다 로마 쳤음바
응.
바카사라와
Chaksa Kopa Tame Me.
칠라 로마 쳤음바데 메는 요스 mom바시피 로마
So we are on page 11 in Lama Zopa Rinpoche's translation, and the Tara connected with this first verse is known on page 11 is known as Tara who ripens all. Tara who ripens all.
롱게 더진노 칼 메도 베마치기 틴다 어다 제저 로마 근도 마보 메인도 신도제 다 드네치송도 그야레스.
So she appears in front of us. As we recite the verse, we can imagine she appears in front of us from a blooming lotus, and her body is a beautiful lustrous red color, like red firestone.
당연히 지는 유사도 대지고 할레바 야에 다 메이지를 주요 바지.
And so when you're visualizing this particular Tara, it mentions the blazing garland. So Geshe said you could imagine her, that around her are blazing flames.
드는 자체가 될 샤사기는 지든데 그 샤사 까바 타미 메다 바이체 이나 네마 예종의 그 끈이 거기 다이 비는 놈만 조마.
So having visualized her in this way, we then recite the verse, Homage to you, Tara, who dwell within a blazing garland that resembles the fire at the end of this world age. Surrounded by joy, you sit with your right leg extended, and left withdrawn, completely destroying all masses of enemies.
다 샤사 다 드리기 지서 조마 근도 마보 메인도 제들 샤사기.
So in this way, we offer praise to Tara, who ripens all, red in color with the nature of a blazing fire.
다 샤사기 지세자 지세 조지 다 조가르레 잘라바이나.
Why do we prostrate to Tara, who ripens all?
코록 코록 까비 까완 집이 메노지 지게노도 주요 바티 가르고 그거 알잖아.
What do we understand from this imagery of her? The blazing fire is like the fire at the end of the eon of destruction.
다시도 까완 집이 깔라 다 체인지바 메인지바 lun기지바 다 메인지바 다 시는 잡아지레스.
So at the time when the kalpa, when the eon comes to a close, the elements all sort of become very ferocious and out of balance. And there's said to be a fear of fire, yes, but also a fear of water, earth, and so forth.
간조 빼나 좀벌리게 네 근지대 알아. 네 근지대 간조 저도 대지 강가로 생체게 렐라 때는 용화대 지세지. 세제 강가 거한 집이 깔았어. 뭐 생체 매로 그러왔어.
Semche me dene koryuk me drogeres.
아니요. 어디래? 세제 강가 매소나. 다 너가 잡아봐야만 됐어.
So what happens as the end of the eon unfolds is that actually first sentient beings start to be fewer and fewer. And when sentient beings are no longer inhabiting the earth, the karma that keeps the cycles of the earth in balance starts to run out. So, for example, the rain will stop falling because sentient beings are no longer abiding. So what happens if that cycle of the rain is no longer happening? Then, right, due to the power of the sun, the earth begins to heat up, becomes very, very hot. Slowly, slowly, this fire will come to consume the whole world with the equivalent of the power of 7 suns. And that fire is going to be potent enough to completely obliterate even features such as mountains and so forth. Sorry, nga triwa chikyo. Okay. So this Tara possesses a fire that is as potent as that eon-ending fire, except that her fire is the fire of wisdom.
다 이식 메인도 유바티 난졸 가르 네트 제거 알잖아. 센첸 로와 요도 메디가 메도레 시레 자도 시도더니 다 시도레 강가요 뭐 바시게데 메디가 뭐 바시게 알았어.
메디 membership. We can think of this blazing fire of wisdom not as a destroying fire, but as a fulfilling fire. We can think that this fire brings forth the blossoming of positive qualities, just as the heat from the fire of the sun brings forth the various flowers, trees, grasses, and other things that are able to grow on this world. When we pray to Tara who ripens all, like that sun that allows the seeds to sprout and blossom into the flower, the warmth of her wisdom will ripen the positive potentialities of all sentient beings. Yeah. The powerful essence of that fire, if we think the flames, maybe perhaps they're powerful enough to burn also through trees or houses and so forth. We can think of this wrathful aspect of the fire as able to burn through all obstacles and hindrances that are obstructing sentient beings. So that's one of the important reasons that we must offer homage to Tara who ripens all. Yeah, and so surrounded by joy, you sit with your right leg extended, left withdrawn, same as all of the other Taras in this tradition. Completely destroying all masses of enemies. So that's just as was explained. So understanding her benefits in this way, we offer homage to Tara who ripens all. So now we come to number 14, the next Tara. And she is said to be blue in color like Vaidurya. So Vaidurya is like a deep blue sapphire color. So Geshe said that it's very beautiful that there are these 21 manifestations of Tara, right? And that they have all of these beautiful different colors. So there's a Tara that everyone can appreciate, just like there are many different colors of gemstones. One is for sure going to appeal to you. Tara manifests in these myriad aspects, understanding that all sentient beings have different affinities and capacities, and so she manifests in ways that all different types of beings can connect with her. So number 14, who is this deep Vaidurya blue color, her name is Tara of the enthralling furrowed brow. Tara? Yeah, so she is slightly wrathful in appearance. That's why she's called enthralling furrowed brow. So the furrowed brow is common to wrathful or semi-wrathful deities. The furrowed brow is also one of the descriptions we associate with chakra samvara. So the furrowed brow is like you've just started to irritate somebody and those wrinkles are showing on their forehead. It's a furrowed brow like that. So, he was saying that my mom can tell when Geshe Sonam is annoyed with me, she told him, because normally he doesn't have any wrinkles, but then it looks like he's got wrinkles on his forehead when he's annoyed with me. So watch for the wrinkles if you want to know if Geshe is annoyed with you. Homage to you, Tara, with hand on the ground by your side, pressing your heel and stamping your foot on the earth. With a wrathful glance from your eyes, you subdue all 7 levels through the syllable hum. So striking the ground with the foot is a very active posture confirming that Tara has the power to overcome all obstruction-causing beings.
아니 꾸와 살다기 말했어. 꾸와.
Yeah. And also, Geshe said, like, when you're banging your hand on the table, she's kind of doing this with her palm on the ground. Yeah?
나도 다 자치 못하는다. 세라를 개기더니가.
Loso.
가지도 비가 꾸와 살다기더니가.
And so Geshe said this is also a rhetorical flourish that the discipline master at great monasteries like Sera will use when he is scolding the monks. He will pound his fist on the table.
다지 무슨 게 워트가 진짜 또 나도 개기서야 돼. 철다기 이자 동바테 자른 노지.
Zarusena?
진 나포더니가.
Ale.
저때지.
Zari, okay.
Zaija.
Uh-huh.
나포더니가.
Loso. Ale, yes, Hakusan. Yeah. Yeah. So it is said that there's a saying that the discipline master at the monastery's facial expression, and it's in Tibetan the word is Dzaji. It's a certain kind of mountain. I was asking Geshe, what's this mountain like? It's the kind of mountain with very sharp, defined rocks, which is very steep and on which no grass can grow. So that's the kind of facial expression the discipline master should have. Because the discipline master's responsibility is for the ethical conduct of the monastery, he has to have a kind of grave appearance, right? It's important. So that's the outer mind, but the inner mind of the discipline master is supposed to be like a gentle snow mountain. Yeah. So the motivation or the thought is something gentle and positive, but the outer aspect or appearance is something fierce or wrathful. Yep. So we can imagine, if you like, when you make the praise, that the hum at her heart emanates various lights, and it is those lights emanating from the hum chase away all obstructing beings. Semshin duksha den so pardon. Loso. Yeah. Right. So the reference to the 7 levels here is that these activities of clearing away obstructors can even go to the 7 levels beneath the earth. So it says 7 levels beneath the earth, there are very kind of like hindering and obstructing forces, and even this Tara can overcome them. We can also imagine that from the hum at her heart, light rays emanate, touching all beings who try to bring benefit to others, helping bring blessing to their activities and helping them to improve. So now we come to the top of page 12, number 15, Tara number 15. And her name is Tara, greatly white, peaceful one. Tara, greatly peaceful one. Sorry, white in color. She is white in color, and her name is Tara, greatly peaceful one. Yeah, so she's white in color. Yeah. Oh. And so her iconography of this particular Tara, we can understand as Lamrim Kibusum Densoro. As we can understand as manifesting aspects of the 3 scopes of the Lamrim. So reading Rinpoche's translation, homage to you, Tara, happy, virtuous, and peaceful one, the very object of practice past beyond sorrow. You are perfectly endowed with Svaha and Om, overcoming completely all the great evils. Yep. So virtuous, so it's actually, so I see. So Rinpoche has one at the end of the line. So it's like virtuous one, happy one, peaceful one. So the one comes at the end. But virtuous one, Geshe said, is one who can lead beings from the lower states of existence to the virtuous realms. That's what virtuous means here.
Yeah.
So that the happiness indicates that she can bring beings from the confusion of samsara to the happiness of liberation.
This one,
Peaceful one means that through allowing us to completely purify all of our negative karma, that she can bring us to a state of peace completely removed from suffering. Right. So those three words, happy, virtuous, and peaceful, we can understand them as the three scopes of the Lam Rim. She can bring us to the state of the virtuous higher realms, to the happiness of liberation of the middle scope, and ultimately to Buddhahood, where faults are completely cleared away and ultimate peace is achieved through the great scope. So past beyond sorrow means that through this Tara's realization of emptiness, she has realized emptiness, which brings her beyond sorrow. But because she is a fully enlightened Buddha, she can remain in this equipoise upon emptiness while simultaneously engaging in activities to benefit sentient beings. Yeah. So it is only a Buddha. Even high-level Arya Bodhisattvas are not able to do this. It is only a Buddha who is able to remain in that meditative equipoise upon emptiness whilst simultaneously engaging in activities for the welfare of beings. And that simultaneousness is possible because a Buddha is able to perceive the two truths together in one object, just as we can see those flowers on Geshe-la's table. There's no bodhisattva that is able to do that. Only a fully enlightened Buddha can. So because this Tara, greatly peaceful one, possesses all of these qualities, we offer homage to her. So one way to understand the line, you are perfectly endowed with Svaha and Om, overcoming completely all the great evils, this points us to the 10-syllable mantra of Tara, Om Tare Tutare Ture Svaha. So it's saying through accumulating that mantra as much as possible, you can overcome all obstacles. So there are many ways to understand the 10 syllables of the the syllables of the 10-syllable Tara mantra. But one of the easiest ways is to think that those 10 syllables represent the 10 non-virtues being overcome and the 10 virtues being practiced. Many other ways to explain this mantra, and we can come to an explanation of those later. Yeah, so we will end our conversation here. So this brings us to the second verse on page 12. So let us lift our hearts in joy and dedicate the merits. And as always, if you need to get on with your day, please feel free. If you'd like to stay for Q&A, you're most welcome. Changju Semjo Rinpoche Maje Banam Chejur Chi Cheba Nyamba Meba Yang Gone Gondo Bewa Sho Tongni Tawa Rinpoche Maje Banam Chejur Chi Cheba Nyamba Meba Yang Gone Gondo Bewa Sho Jambe Bao Jida Jemba Dang Gundu Zambo Deon Dejin Deda Gungi Jesu Dalo Che Gewa Deda Tangje Radu Ngo Dusun Shebe Gyawa Tangje Ge Ngowa Gangla Chodo Ngaba De Dagi Gewe Tsawa Dikun Kyang Zambo Jeje Radu Ngowa Gi Gangri Rawe Korwe Shinkanji Pendant Dewa Malin Jungwene Chenre Ziwan Tenzin Jatsoyi Shabe Side Badu Tenjo. So we'll pause there. And we welcome any questions if you have any. I was thinking like it always I was thinking about past years, and I noticed that as we come to the end of January and the beginning of February, folks are feeling a little quieter usually. It's just something about that time of year, at least in this part of the world. So Geshe said, I'm just going to check for questions, and if there aren't any, he'll tell a story. Oh, Steve. Yes, Steve, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Geshe-la. Good morning, Kedro.
Morning.
In text, there's a distinctly different word for lotus and for utpala.
Mm-hmm.
So it would seem that these are two completely different flowers.
Yeah.
In English, we both call them lotus, it would seem.
Yeah, no, yeah, so I'm going to ask Geshe about the difference between these two, but in some of the texts I've seen, it talks about Tara sitting on a lotus,
Yes.
and about the upala blossoming over her shoulders.
Yes.
Right?
I would.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I mean.
do you want to know the significance and the difference between the two flowers?
Yeah, and any clear clue as to their contemplative meaning.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
No problem, you're welcome. Ganso Jetsun Roma Samlo Tangna Dene Den Metok Pemagi Den Ine Dela Metok Chikyore Di Pema Rangma Renganso Utpala Roa Sushi Ngumpogi Metok Chikyore Di Dundag Mixe Yores Kande Samlo Tangas Dunda Yunam Di dinso sum rwa konso chik jabsare chik sheka re chik goche re rwa di donda yore ne metok ta mendrawa gi gyumsen kare res dana kare res. Yeah. Yeah. Lomasum kebu chungu le tambo adam. Oh, right. So Geshe said that for the first part of the question, the difference between the utpala and the lotus, he thinks there's a meaning, but he cannot recollect. So he will have to check this for you, Steve. In terms of the lotus above her shoulders, it sometimes has a bud that is closed, a bud that is partly open, and a bud that is fully open. Dusumgi sangegi. This represents that she is the embodiment of the enlightened activities of the Buddhas of the past, the present, and the future. But in terms of the difference between the utpala and the lotus, he has to check. So the lotus, though, the meaning, right, is one that's commonly understood. And so, if we look for commentaries on Vajrayogini, it would be the same as the one on Tara here, which is that the lotus arises from the muck, but is untouched by that muck as it sits above the water. So in the same way,
그런 도를 시에 저 개념이 와 시사대 사자 두자 보면 두아스
Korwa dabochi, right?
매미 개념은 와메도 배마시 그러와
Yeah.
이나 그럴 개념이 뭐지 와 말아
Yeah, dila pai, di donda karete.
세시어 된 뭐지
아.
다지스 좀 마테
예.
가르세가 코알을 전에 로바치는 요아를 때 거의 시 공육기 와 말아
So one way to understand this with Tara in particular is that although Tara is very much abiding in samsara and continuously benefiting sentient beings within samsara, she is completely untouched by the muck of samsara.
다때마다 신이가 알아요.
But Geshe said that he's sorry, Steve. You have stumped him with the lotus and the utpala. He's going to have to check on that.
Dear, that was not my intent.
No, that's good.
I thank you very much.
Yeah, no, he said it's good to have a question that he doesn't know the answer, because now he'll have to look it up and learn himself. So no, don't be sad for asking a question that doesn't have an answer. We will get it to you.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Marta, go ahead.
Hello, Geshe Sonam.
Hi.
How can one? Can you hear me?
It's funny.
Can you
You're
hear me?
fading in and out. I don't know if that's just for me or for other folks, but I'm hearing fading in and out. It's
Can you
I
hear
hear
me now?
and then half the sentence I can't hear.
Now,
But try.
Okay. How can one still so as float? Not these phones.
I can't hear it. No, it's sorry, Marta. Can you type your question to Dave or something? Because I can't hear you at all. I'm really sorry. Is it just me or are other folks having problems as well?
Yeah, it becomes garbled.
Yeah, it's like we can't hear it. So if you can type your question, Marta, to Dave, I promise we'll ask it for you.
In the Zoom chat. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the meantime, Dave, are there any questions?
Yes, there's a question from Natalie.
Sure.
Who asks, is reciting the 21 taras in Tibetan more powerful than in English?
Nganso chiwadire, nganso droma nyer chik pi nanglola sana inji kele nipachewa rebes.
대도 이제 말고 어서 다 시와시라 요즘 말고 어서 다
likely
이대로 하고
gigiro
다때 간제이라 지치는 샤와야나 명시라 요즘 말해서 가지나
Geshe-la's opinion, he said, you might get different thoughts on this, but his opinion is no, it wouldn't be necessarily more powerful to do it in Tibetan than to do it in English, and if there is a difference, it would be a very small difference.
다 집어 돈바서는 다 뉴데 되게 돈이라 요는 오지세 대지 요지로 왔어
But, where it would make a difference is if the person that you received the oral transmission of it from received it from their teacher in Tibetan, for example, it's more powerful for them to give it in Tibetan. Yeah. So lama di pig nangla shupa yin sam dene mar nangna pig nangla nangna yaga to us. So he doesn't think normally it would matter, but when it comes to an unbroken oral transmission, right? The Lama wants to recite it as he or she heard it from their Lama. So in most cases, that will be in Tibetan, right, when it's transmitted. But for you, as the reciter, as the practitioner, the main thing is which language helps you think about Tara, contemplate Tara more effectively. Yeah. So he'll leave that question there. But Natalie, if you have a follow-up, don't be shy. And I think Marta typed out her question, right?
Yes,
Dave?
she
So
did.
maybe-
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So Natalie says, thank you. And Martha says, or asks, how can one see someone as close, not distant, not an enemy, even if they are an obstacle, bad company, as Shantideva explains, or a family member who hurts you and with whom you can't maintain a relationship, preferring to keep them at a distance because closeness leads to arguments? If we see everyone as close, how can we deal with these situations?
Nanso mi chatsangwa nyen dabuchik sigo gere duas yene di tets kale kapo re duas karin sena soso nepa kiegin soso dra di dabuchik mutune nepa kiena dene tanya po re samlo tangna chichena dela tene soso nepa kieya dabuchik yongi re dua roa di nyogdra tambo diche yamena nanso nangmi gi mi kashe samsam tets ta ringpo dena karin seda kadi yene tanya po ina kadi yene tuna dene nganso tsupa shori matok pentok dabuchik minduas roa dene nganso semshin chatsangwa nyen dabutsia di dang samsam ta ringpo de goya dis kande samlo tangus
me ta te do ya de dembore dar wa o te dembore sonsola me nye tsa sa te ta nyewo de do dike charo de ka sa de se
So the first thing is, how do we understand holding sentient beings close in this context? Holding them close in our mind doesn't mean necessarily being in close physical proximity to them. So that's the first.
de mugi de sosola kange te ke tele thon sola puge kalon la ta ka ze thata puge ne se me ba che trapi number go thone te te ze pa trapo she ke sa te yo yong
So with the person who is causing us problems or difficulty too, we sometimes might want to show a little bit of a wrathful manifestation to solve the problems. But if we are showing kind of more of a wrathful face, we want to make sure that within our heart there's that feeling of holding them close and dear. That's very important. Sorry, I hear typing.
da ina yo
Yeah.
소설 보게 대시 지고요. 이제 세계 눈에 가디 이나 보게 더 림보지도 어디다라 같이 손쓰지 요나.
Yeah.
소소 된다 되어요. 막 가디 이나.
But the problem is too, though, that in terms of our own happiness, if we're having this idea, kadine tarimpo degores de soso kibo trugire, karesegya.
아직 괜찮 이거만 돼. 세계 눈으로는 뒤져 손쓰te 파피 가르마도.
Yeah.
되게 손소라 강에 되게 요아래라. 어떤 못하는 기보소요 말이스.
But even if we have to maintain a little bit of physical distance to avoid falling into a quarrel, we don't want to have this feeling of wanting to push that person away all the time within our mind. Because if we allow that aversion to remain within our mind, it's only going to cause us problems.
니에따 가르선 가디 이나 코로티 가르존한테 여보주주스니 어주잔 데 가르스 대세요 말이스.
So that doesn't mean that seeing beings as close to us means that we always have to have them like right within our physical proximity and always think that whatever they're doing is great. That's not what's being said.
저기도와 빼나 셰파포도 샤와니 셰파포 구자테로 왔어. 구자테를 가제 이나 보게 니에따 저야 다시 또 그랬어. 샤와게 맞 가제 터다 된다. 다 가리고는 꽉거는 꽉.
It also goes to distinguishing between the agent and the action, or distinguishing between the doer and the behavior. The agent, the doer, is the person. We don't want to develop a feeling of aversion or being far away from them, but that doesn't mean that their action is something that we have to agree with or tolerate necessarily.
달라 잡어 주대로 왔어. 노노 박 좀바도 저와 보게 다 저와 매버지 던지 비도버 주아레스.
It's just like those wrathful deities, right? On the outside, they may have a wrathful appearance, but we have to understand that within their holy minds, they are never separated from love and compassion.
다 이나요더니 토피 샤와도 그살 토피 다 샤와마 난 네츠 뭐 보는 거야.
They manifest a wrathful appearance because in some situations, some wrath is required to dispel some suffering, for example. So that would be Geshe-la's answer to Marta. But it is. Geshe-la's just acknowledging that these are challenging situations that, all of us have to deal with at some point. So as a beginner, not feeling anger or sort of upset with these sentient beings isn't necessarily going to be possible. So what's the first step? The first step is making sure that we don't hold on to ill will, right? That we don't hold on to ill will and resentment. That's the first thing. So let go of that and then work on the anger. So next question.
Yeah, Greg is asking in the chat, in connection with the story about Arhat Katyayana, is it useful for us to think of ourselves as crazy? Does it just mean ordinary beings or see delusions and mahasattvas see things as they are?
Dene nganso ngama kandes lakore niente sangegi getru niente Katyayana chik dua roa jung nang roa. Dene nganso ko kandes lakore semshin dinso nyomba dapo chik sigire duas yene semshin dinso nyomba mares roa nganso semshin samlo tang nyomba res yene kebu dampa dinso konso ngune netsu tong tu gire duas di samlo tangores. Yeah, so that's the meaning here.
매매 간속 녀모 가지는 것도 되나? 되게 샤와 노아 주주.
And the point of the illustration too is that we're crazy in the sense that we allow the afflictions to compel us into the same set of mistaken actions again and again. And so the holy being is pointing to this to show us the incorrect path so that we don't go down that. And that's what Milarepa is saying too, right? Like by not recognizing the real enemy, we make those who are not the enemy into enemies. And this keeps us in this cycle, which in the end is crazy. Yeah. So he's not saying like crazy as in like you're all crazy, you're bad people. He's saying like crazy in the sense of like confused, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
To a similar point, we're meant to, at least according to some parts of the Lamrim, we're meant to see ourselves as being sick.
Yeah.
You know,
Lamrim ganso ngozin sum ganso nepa soso nepa dapo tsigo gire dua ganso nepa yimpa kelen gorwa. Correct. And Geshe said, what more serious illness is there than the afflictions? There's nothing more serious than that, right? Ultimately.
And difficult to shake.
Yeah, di kelen ya tes kale kapure duas roa. Yeah. It is really hard, you know. So the first thing is just to be able to observe, and we can definitely observe this, that the afflictions lead us into mistaken courses of action. That's very easy to see. Yeah. So there's a reason why suffering, one, and the afflictions, two, are both referred to as diseases, right? Yeah.
So Greg asks a supplemental, so our perceptions are incorrect due to the afflictions, leading to the same harmful actions over and over.
Denenganso neso tongtang nor yinsang, ganso notru yangsi chik korjo gituas nyomong la tene. Correct. Yes. Correct. If continuing in this course of action, we would eventually be able to see an end to this picture, then you could make that argument. But we see that if we continue in our present way of doing things, there will be no end. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I see. Yeah. You're welcome, Greg. You're welcome. So Geshe said he thinks we're at, I just want to make sure, Dave, we're at the end, and thank you so much, Dave, for hosting. Okay, awesome. So we're at the end. So Geshe says we'll end with a story just for a couple of minutes, and then we'll close the session if folks are cool. It might be an old story for some of you, but it relates to some of what we discussed. And it is related to how some who begin as our enemies can eventually transform into friends. And it is related also to cause and effect. So during the time when the Buddha was still abiding in the world, the king of, I believe it's Vaishali, and the king of Varanasi, so the kings of two kingdoms in what's now India, were at war. Marjaya, right? Yeah. So Geshe said he can't remember the names of both the kings, but the first one in Tibetan is Gyalpo Saja, he's called. And so the king of Vaishali and Varanasi were continuously falling into disagreements and fighting wars against each other. And eventually, as the armies were fighting, the kings came to face each other on either side of a river. And on the opposite banks of the river, each of the armies of the kingdom was sort of massing up and preparing for war. And together with each of the two kings was also the queens of the kingdom. Yeah. And Niga. And both of the queens were pregnant, and one went into labor. So because a prince was being born, King Gyalpo Sagya, King Sagya, his army, they started beating a drum beat, but it wasn't a war drum beat, it was a drum sound of celebration. And then on the other side also the queen came into labor, and to celebrate the coming of a royal child, they also started beating their drums. So in Vaishali, the queen gave birth to a daughter, and in Varanasi, the queen gave birth to a son. So this was a very unusual occurrence. On the same day, within the same hour, two royal births to happen, one of a daughter and one of a son. So seeing this auspicious circumstances, both kings thought this is a sign that we have to set down our quarrel and that we should not go to war. And then in order so that no wars were not fought again, as the prince and the princess came of age, eventually it was arranged that they would get married. And with that marriage, then Varanasi and Vaishali no longer fell into war, and there was a time of great peace and prosperity. So King Sagya's daughter, the princess, she was a very curious and intelligent woman, and wanting to understand what the Buddha was teaching, she would often go and listen when the monks were debating or when there was a discourse. Yeah. Oh, dene? Yeah. Loso. Yabo kumason. Kene. Yep.
대해서 다 남아로가
Namaloga sana? What's
제메
that?
제네서 가라와
Ale, Changsa Jago.
어
Ale,
디체더
loso.
너무 뭐 진짜라 비다고 그네 바레스
So as the princess and the prince came closer to the age of majority, in accordance with the custom of the time, King Sagya had to prepare his daughter's dowry. So he prepared lots of gold, silver, and other precious substances.
다 부모들이 다 바발 계셨는데 다 들이 대진에서 간지 가르레스
And as he was doing this, she asked her father, "Why are you sort of gathering up all of this wealth?"
어 드니 바비 때레시 자그라 왔어 레시 자비 깔 부모 배도 다 대처치네 드니 초사자에 대바 몇개 쳐사레스
As the king was explaining, this is your dowry and you are to be married, the princess lost complete interest. She became disgusted by the idea of marriage and didn't want to get married at all. She brought forth a mind of renunciation.
드니 부모들 바발라니 가 초사자인데 나 안에서
And she said, "I want to become a bhikshuni. I have no interest whatsoever in getting married."
다 대체는 되고 말했어 바비 근데 요즘 뭐 하고 그래스
And her father pleaded with her. He said that if you don't get married, right, we won't be able to resolve this dispute with the other kingdom, and there's a chance that the two kingdoms fall into war again.
엄마네 디세서 길에서 자손 파티 좋다레스 저런 주주가 아니라
And he said, we've already made kind of this promise to the other family, and all of the arrangements are in place for this to happen.
드니 부모 다 세 할레로 로버치워치니 구비토가 요한도 구비토가 요한도는 드니 손질 쏟아지 말했어
And so the princess still felt completely despondent. She left her father, went upstairs to her room, and began making prayers of request to the Buddha.
다 손질 샬라 침부터니 자 침부터니 때때데레스 당한들이 강해지요 될다 로바소르치스
She said, "O Blessed One, through the power of your compassion, please bless me to solve this problem that I am facing."
다 손질 투가 다 파페도 예시도 저도 가리나 투명이자 더가롱이 스페인가 손질 페바레스
At that time, the Buddha, due to his clairvoyance, he heard her prayer, and he was able to appear in that place immediately.
다 드네서는 손질 콜 다 덴바지도 다 드네 치모 뭐지노
He gave her teachings on the four Arya truths and other important topics.
다 또코 뭐만이 다 봐서 니 범문다와 지야이자 릴라보지 되고 다 저도 내시요 봐 왔다 강가 동반이도 강가 라야 디세치스
Because of the powerful imprints from her cultivation in previous lifetimes, just through hearing those teachings, she was able to ripen positive imprints and have realizations and various siddhis, spiritual powers.
드네 손질 다봐 거리 페세나 거 통야요 말was 드네 파만이자 마가 보면 다 페토가 토월레서 이렇게 저대기 하레스
And so then the Buddha disappeared. She had received these teachings, brought forth this realization, Kodzutru Tongso.
그 저때는 파만이라 나 주사자 그거 매
Yeah, and she thought, I don't have to get married anymore. I have the power to emanate different bodies. So she said, I'm going to emanate a body for someone to get married, but I myself am not going to get married.
다 이나요 파만이 다 저런 저도 대만 예시도 대만 드리피다 보지 차요나요 알리 그것도 된지 와도야 말마도요 드니 문요라요 그래스 주사자야
And so her parents, though, realized somehow that this was an emanation. And they said, whether you send an emanation or not, at the end of the day, somebody has to get married. Otherwise, we're going to be facing serious problems.
드니 파만이는 주보 대서를 팔레테는 단 주보 남아 지가쇼마도 아니 바제 뭐뭐드스 지가쇼스
Loso.
바제 뭐뭐드스 주보 파티노르치
Yeah. Patridroche abukomason.
주사자 가라와 파티노 가라와 보모
Ale, loso. And seeing that there would be a problem, they thought we have to make sure that the marriage happens very soon.
야
Dupasona.
주사자는 보모 판로 가라와
Yeah, how doesn't Dupasona.
드니 다 펀데서 내네 주사자는 파티노 요하라와 주사자는 파티노 에 코로스 보모 티사 야사지 요하라와 보모 티 토가노 요하포니 드니 저때니 파
And so they were very afraid that because of the powers of the emanation or something, that the daughter was still going to try to get out of it. So basically, her parents kidnapped her, and they put her inside a palanquin, and they were determined that they were going to carry her in this palanquin to the place of marriage. But she possessed those miracle powers still. So through her miracle powers, she was able to break through the palanquin and go into the sky. She was able to go into the sky. And the prince, seeing the princess flying in the sky above the palanquin, he thought that this is not an ordinary person. This is a highly realized being, and I am not worthy to marry her. So let's call off the wedding, at least for now, and later on maybe we think about what to do. A few months later, after the princess was continuing to cultivate, she reached the stage of a foe destroyer. And this became a widely known piece of news, and everybody in Vaishali and Varanasi was rejoicing that a woman disciple of the Buddha had attained the state of a foe destroyer. This was very encouraging. And not only did the princess achieve the state of a foe destroyer, it was said that both her scriptural knowledge and her realization of wisdom were like the preeminent, the very powerful, even amongst the various foe destroyers. And so, being inspired, then the prince also, he gave up the idea of marrying her. He became inspired to practice, and he also eventually reached the state of a foe destroyer. And so in this way, even though the marriage didn't happen, because of these spiritual examples, the two kingdoms were able to abide in peace. And so the monastic disciples approached the Buddha and they said, what sort of causes and conditions gave rise to this phenomena, right, with the prince and the princess? Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. So Buddha Shakyamuni explained that during the time of the third Buddha of this fortunate eon, Kashyapa, when the lifespan of beings was about 20,000 years, that so they were the king and queens of particular kingdoms back in those lifetimes. As they were the king and queens of those kingdoms, they were dedicated to positive things, and then they were doing positive things like making offerings, doing generosity, and other dharma projects. And then as they came to the end of their very long lifespans, the king became a monk and the queen became a nun. They took their ordination from the Buddha of that time, Kashyapa. And they made prayers that their cultivation and their merit would come to fruition after the dharma of Buddha Kashyapa had been eclipsed in the time of the shorter lifespan when Buddha Shakyamuni was in the world. So the king and queen who renounced their kingdoms to become a monk and nun, they were reborn during the time of Buddha as the prince and princess. And so this provided the example of how two people and two kingdoms could begin as enemies but become friends and lead to a very good result. And then they became like sons of happiness in their realms. Yeah, so the story shows, the profundity of cause and effect. I was just asking for the story to be kind of, because it was starting to meander, right? So I like it succinct and clear, because I make a mistake otherwise, right? But anyways, I think we got the story accurate, so it's good. So thank you, everybody. And if you have time, we will see you next Sunday. Hope you enjoyed the story, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Thank you, Geshe. Tashele.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Have a great week.